Well, it's a good evening from the studios at Radio FM88 in Brisbane, Australia, and naturally Thursday night. It's my privilege to invoke my co-host in the UK, the privileges of modern technology. Our guest is in the middle, and also he's from Australia as well. So we're going to have a bit of Australian accents tonight. So fantastic. Oh, mornings over there in the UK. So without further ado, Andrena, carry on.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Good morning, everybody, or good day. Welcome wherever you are in the world. And thank you for tuning in to Dreaming the New Dream. Today's the 27th of February, so, a couple more days and we're into March, would you believe? So, without further ado, today we have Michael Gray Griffith back on the show, host of Cafe Locked Out, and you're a producer and a playwright. And you're also a warrior for truth, free speech. And I just like to honor and acknowledge the wonderful work that you're doing, interviewing people that are telling their stories and what's really going on in the world, because there's not many out there like yourself doing what you're doing. So welcome, Michael. And it was only just 2 years ago that you were on a show, not long ago, it seems.
2 years, wow.
Yeah.
Getting on that fast.
Yeah, totally. So anyway, it's lovely to have you back on. So with all what's going on since we spoke 2 years ago, and we know we're in the greatest time of history of change, where would you like to start today? Because there's so much, I'm not quite sure where we're going with all this. There's so much going on. There's so much untruths out there. There's so many people in higher places that are just telling lies after lies after lies. So where would you like to start? And I know you've got some fantastic stories or real life things happening for people that over here, some of us can't comprehend what's going on.
Well, first off, I personally believe that we're in some sort of spiritual war or World War III or something going on. But within those wars, there's smaller wars. And one of those wars was the COVID war. And the battle was to basically get it out there that these vaccines or gene therapies were dangerous. And I think we've all done that. We're going from the big guys, the Peter McCullochs and Robert and down, the major podcasters, yourself, us, people talking to each other. Because in Australia now, it's only 5% are still taking the boosters. So basically, I think they bought enough for 10 for all of us. And I think most people have reached 6 or 7.
10?
10. Yeah, it was when it came out. Someone showed me their passport, and I think there was 10 spaces on there. And one of our health ministers, Kerry Chant, I remember her saying, "You'll be taking you'll be taking vaccines for the rest of your life like this." And so, where are you now on your vaccine journey?
Oh.
And yeah, she was mad, man. Honestly, you look at her face, and she's like, there's just this. And so people aren't taking it, but it's a hollow victory, full of tears and loss and silence, because you can't mention the fallen, you can't mention the injured. You're just not even supposed to talk about it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then all over the country, there's fading remnants of it. Like staying apart keeps us together signs fading on some shop, or signs telling you to don't enter the shop unless you're masked up or if you're sick. And but it hasn't stopped other vaccines. There's another one at the moment, is the whooping cough. And I can't tell you how many parents, grandparents I've had reach out to me. Yeah, I've cut my hair since then. How many grandparents have reached out to me saying that they can't see their new grandchildren because the kids they won't let them see the grandkid until they take the whooping cough vaccine, and nobody wants to take it. And so they're still going with other things, but that was actually Jim Ferguson did a 24-hour podcast, and we were the Australian version of that. Yeah, so we were there. That was in the bus. Can't remember where. But that's what I'm seeing there. There is Australia at the moment has sort of an undeclared silent civil war going on, where most of the public now believe that we were duped or there's something really strange, but they don't talk about it. But the government's kind of aware of it. We defeated the Mad Bill, and then when they had a referendum called The Voice, and the government threw everything at The Voice. Celebrities, $500 million. All the CEOs came out telling everyone you were racist if you voted against it. And well over 60, in some states, 70% of people said no. And what I think happened was they were in the voting booth. They had no camera in their face, no one threatening their job. And so they just told the government to go get effed. I think that was, what our current Prime Minister does, but what they all do is they underestimate the people. The first time through, the first COVID was like a Pearl Harbor attack. The town's sleepy, and suddenly there's a pandemic. What's a pandemic? And then this, and there's guns in the streets and rubber bullets and pepper spray, and all that was to frighten the people into complying. So every time they shot one of us or they arrested a pregnant woman in their house, it was all about making sure the rest of the community complied. And I took that at a Melbourne Cup Raceway. So you can see the police and the little girl, and this is what the police were around us, always like this, always separate, always gloves, always masks, as though we were filthy. And here's this young girl blowing bubbles. I don't know what her name is, but her mum let me take the photo and use it.
Yeah, it says it all.
Yeah. What I don't understand is why the police officers here and in your country, especially in England, why they went from being protectors to oppressors. I mean, in England, the constables, I believe, have the right to say no to any order they're given by a leader if they feel that it's incorrect, you know. And yet they go, we're watching them arrest people who are praying, you know, praying in their heads. It's just bonkers. And then of course, all the migrant stuff, and you get arrested for putting a UK flag on your Facebook page and you end up in jail. I mean, how are you coping with that? I mean, it just, from here, it's just going, this is England. How can this possibly be happening? What's it like being there?
Well, and it's thankful that I'm in lots of different groups that where people can share what's happening, and you know, we network out to different people, and you know, all supporting one another. But it's it's just like everything's gone crazy, you know, who's supporting who's looking after who, and it's like the people, us, that are doing works in different ways, we're helping each other, we're sharing, you know, there was, and I'm not sure the figures, but there was a guy, now this bird flu lark, he's just that they've, I'm not sure if it was 5,000 chickens, but he just, or it might have been 50. It was huge. And he looked, you know, and I think, well, what real proof have they got? You know, I mean, it's not so, I don't get drawn into politics, all of that sort of thing, because that's just not my way of doing things. But yeah, I just, where's the real, you know, all these leaders telling lies, they're not telling you the truth, and they're getting paid unbelievable amounts of money, and there's the other end of the scale. You know, it's just like, I just don't know where it's all going at the minute. I really don't. It's just like when you read of some things that are happening, you know, some things are just heartbreaking, and the amount of people that have passed, through having to take things, and then you put out something else that this will really help, and then people say, oh, so you really got to be careful of what you're putting out, what you're saying. And I'm aware of, like, being on a podcast, we have to be careful of what we say. Yeah.
Are you still getting censored over there? Because we're still copying it here.
Not as much, or not that I'm aware of anyway, but we keep everything's undercover. There's so many different groups, and that's the only way that people let each other know what's going on, the real truth.
Wow, so there's a network of real stories underneath.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I call it the undercover movement at grass level.
That's great. Do you think you're watching the end of one form of English civilization and the birth of another? That's what we're watching.
Definitely. There's more and more people having an awareness now that are questioning things, and there are more and more people that are aware but just happy where they are. So everybody's on a journey, and you can't speak for other people because we don't know what their soul's journey is and what they need.
Yeah, I find, though, I do believe they've been very clever at making people feel powerless.
Oh.
And a lot of that comes from the destruction of freedom of speech. So the more silent they can keep us, the more people think, no one thinks like me. I don't like what's going on, but around me, everyone's happy. Because when I had this play on, I put a play on recently about 3 young men, and the actors were telling me that they can't speak about anything. And the play was full of issues. No, it was another play. The play was full of issues, and their actor mates wouldn't come because their actor mates were scared if you're affiliated with art that's challenging or just dealing in the truth. If someone knows you went there, it could backfire on your career. So people are scared of it. And it does my head. In that picture they just showed, Maroon, that's one of my plays. I don't know if I get it on here. The theatre's pretty cancelled by the theaters, but that's in the UK at the moment, or I think it's good there and going up to Scotland. King's
College, I think it was.
King's College,
King's College, London. Yeah.
In London. I'm not sure where.
Dan Windsor Walk.
Right.
Yeah. So that's been the highlight of this week. But it's I actually feel, though, that that's the other thing to talk about, since we talked about 2 years ago, is the rise of AI and the effect, good or bad, on communities, because people can't simply keep up with the tide of change at the moment, just with AI alone, let alone what's happening in America with Trump and Elon and everything else. Is that how you guys are feeling in the UK?
Yeah, but anyway, I know you've got some amazing stories to share of people, different things that's going on. So for you now, what has been the most soul touching stories that have really hit home?
Since I last saw you, probably Dazzle. So Dazzle was a 16-year-old Australian girl who needed a double lung transplant. But for some reason, for her own reasons, she stubbornly refused to take a certain thing. And so they wouldn't put her on the list. And we were a part of a huge campaign to get them to back down. And they wouldn't. And so after about a year, this whole campaign of fighting to save Dazzle, and we were going nuts. I mean, people who don't know us have gone, I've heard of the name Dazzle, because we got it in the Daily Mail. I mean, we got it out there. And but she wouldn't comply. And all she wanted was a chance. She said, just get me to the table and give me a chance. I'll fight. I just want to fight. I want to die fighting. But instead she died waiting because she wouldn't comply. So they just let her die. And I think with her died, something in Australia died too. And at least for me.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a, I mean, I don't want to, you're on YouTube, so I don't want to get you banned, but
that's okay. We only lost 3 shows. That's all right.
The stories we're hearing, just when you think you can't, you've hit rock bottom. There can't be anything worse. And then suddenly you're there and someone comes up and says, can I tell you a story? And you're just in shock. And I think one of the really concerning things for me is that so many people, especially in the health industry, not all of them, but the stories we hear are of so many that have seemed to have lost their empathy. And I don't know if it's because they've seen so much carnage or they've been having to lie because they haven't been allowed to acknowledge the injuries. So they've been lying to themselves. So I don't know. I really don't know. It's a silent country. It's like I actually see it, even though there's defiance in the people, it's kind of conquered in a way that people are too scared to talk. The only things I saw, something which really astounded me, was we have all these things to get really angry about, like the cost of living is insane. And
What's happening? Gone off.
Yeah, lost your sound. You've been silenced for a minute, Michael. Probably not the first time. So
there were so many things to get angry about. No one gets angry about anything. And then some people found an injured magpie, brought it home, healed it.
Oh yeah.
And it got on with their bird. It got on with their dog. And then the government came along, or a department of the government said, no, that's a wild bird. You're not allowed to have it as a pet. So they removed the magpie, and the country lost its mind.
Really?
They're screaming. And what it was communism. Because this is what I see. The government said, you can get angry about that, and we'll be okay with that. So you take all your anger out of that. So here's this bird that most people should go, oh, well, who gives a shit? You know, bird flu's coming. You're going to ask people to shoot it next week. They lost their marbles. And I think it was like a pressure relief valve. They were just getting all their angst out. It's something they were safe. And the word safe has been used to bring in amendments to the hate speech laws. Everything's about keeping us safe. But I think, as I thought when this first happened, the real problem is cowardice. People are not prepared to put their head above the parapet and go, this is wrong. We can't have this. We're Australians. Shouldn't happen like this. They're just not. So they're just adapting. They're adapting, and in a way, what's been installed now is a new norm. And in this new norm, your partner can suddenly just drop dead in the kitchen, just kaboom, which happens all the time. And you just go, oh, well, and you just bury him, and then you shut up and you just go on with your life.
Yeah.
And that's new norm. It's like, I actually tell people, you know, you're living in a death camp. They realize that the actual, you know, the death camps with all the starving Jews in, that wasn't good marketing. It would look bad on Instagram. So now we live in the death camp. People can die wherever around you, and the rules are, don't speak about it.
Yeah. But makes you wonder, because, you know, we know of nurses and doctors that have conformed and didn't want to, and all of this malarkey. But, you know, when are they going to suddenly turn and say enough? You know, we can't play this game anymore. We can't tell these lines. We can't kill these, you know, all of this. When is there going to be this flip around?
I don't know. That is a great question. That's a great question. I thought it would happen all of a sudden, like one death too many, and then suddenly be like the Berlin Wall coming down, and everyone would be angry and demanding answers. But as to date, no, it hasn't happened.
Yeah, and they're all bottling it within. That's, you know, which we know, you know, if you suppress your emotions, you know, you get all sorts, you know, if you don't deal with it, you know. And there's, I think, I can't remember what I shared, but there was a while ago, and I put something up and I said, look, there's so many of us out here. If you want to talk, if you just want to have a cup of coffee, or if you want to reach out, or you don't understand, you know, there's many people around that can help. You know, there's different groups and different places. So, you know, there's sort of little networks here, there, and everywhere over there. That, you know, things are happening. But for me, it's like, God, what's it going to take? You know, like when you talk about, I've had texts offering me shingles, flu virus, one ovid, double ovid. There was something else. Anyway, I don't know. And I was thinking, you know, and I say to people, if I could give you the greatest tip in the world, don't have any more, or do your research, check into it. Just be more aware that you're a customer. End of story. You know, and I've worked in the mental health as a ward clerk many years ago. Well, a long time ago now. And the reps used to come in to the staff, and they'd all sit in a room watching about a drug or another, and they would be given theatre tickets, they would be given cinema tickets, they would be given vouchers for this. They come in with food, and, you know, and I say, oh, here comes the drug runner. It's like, you know, it was, but you're just a customer. End of story. And then I had an experience. I went to Egypt. I came back in mid-October, and I came back. I somehow got double pneumonia over there. I was absolutely fine. And then when I hit Egypt, I just went, and I ended up so ill that I had to have drugs, which has really affected my well-being. But I'm glad to say I found the most amazing guy who's a kinesiologist and chiropractor, and he's been helping the effects of the drugs. But I know at the time I had no choice to take them, because it was that, or, you know, well, that's it, end of life sort of thing.
Wow, you were that bad?
Oh, unbelievable. And I didn't realize how ill I was, you know. But anyway, that was one hell of a journey. I'm not ready to go back to Egypt for a while, but I did enjoy the parts of it. But it's the side effects of the drugs, and like, I can only say now that I'm feeling, thanks to this guy, more alive and more vibrant than I have done in a while. All my hair's dropped out. I am very blessed that I've got a good head of hair, but I tell you, my hair has come out in handfuls. I've been in tears.
Wow.
And different things. And it's the effects. Because I'm an elder, things don't heal quite so fast as when you were younger. So it's taken a toll on me, but I'm glad to say, you know, heaven sent was this person, and I just feel so amazing. And I think, you know, if I was going abroad again, like somewhere like that, I'd have to take more stuff in my kit bag than I took with me. But yeah, the side effects of some of these things, you know, it goes on and on and on and on and on. Well, you'd rather have what you got. Unless it comes to a critical point, then you've got no choice and you've got to take these things. Anyway, that's my little rant over.
That's all right. The other thing facing over here is we're getting a lot of migrants in. I had a young person tell me the other day they went for a job. They applied for a job online, and it was to be the ticket collector in a theater, and
All right.
and they sent a thing back to tell them, oh, we've closed it now. Now we're going to go through all the applications and pick some. And it's only checking tickets. 9,000 people applied.
9,000.
9,000.
Was it the pay was good or something?
No, people. I'm speaking to young people who are saying there's little to no work, or there's piecemeal work. I talked to 3 young Australian lads. They were working, and they said they're working really hard, and then they got sacked and they got replaced by migrants who are obviously working for cheaper. And it's nothing against migrants. I mean, to me, it's like, they come in here, they're given a chance, they're working like crazy, they want to make the best of it. But there's so little on offer, and if you're over 50, especially a bloke, good luck finding a job. There's just all these people really, really struggling. Even I'm in the country towns. I saw they had a meat tray there with 4 steaks on it, only little steaks, and they were $60. I don't know what that is in pounds, but usually they would be $20 or $25. $60. And you're just looking at these poor people in this town thinking, who's paying for this? And the saddest thing in Australia is we're sitting on all this mineral wealth, huge amounts of mineral wealth. There's no reason we should be broke. And it's just mismanagement by these political parties who are now wanting us to vote them back in. And yet they've economically destroyed the country through these free trade deals and selling off all our assets like you did in the UK, telling us, oh, we sell off the electrical company, electricity is going to get cheaper. We're paying some of the highest electricity in the world. And Dan Andrews, before he left, he doesn't allow new houses to have gas appliances, even though we're sitting on so much gas. You throw a cigarette fag down the wrong rabbit hole, you end up on the moon. It's ludicrous. It's just ludicrous. It doesn't, and no one says anything. And if you say something, you're the problem.
Exactly.
You're the people who are the only people who are the problem are the ones that are going, that's a problem. Yeah.
And I think that's it, being at the front of everything. People think you're a nutcase and all these different things, and don't realize that we are aware, we are awake, and we know what's going on, and we're just trying to help you to be with us and be aware with us.
Yeah, exactly right. I haven't seen like over here they've had the Palestine marches, and they've been quite aggressive. And they had you've got a woman over there who's a female advocate for female rights. Small woman, blonde hair, Polly or something. Anyway, she came over here, and the trans had a march against her. They threw red paint all over her, or tomato sauce. I mean, they just attacked the hell out of her, and all she was trying to do was be a traditional feminist, and saying, keep the men out of the toilets. And this attacks were savage.
Exactly.
But I was in most of the marches for the Freedom Rally. We were never aggressive. We had a lot of aggression aimed at us. We were shot at and pepper sprayed, and the police were brutal with us, but I never saw any violence back. And now I'm suddenly realizing why the government just ignored us. I actually think what they were doing was communicating, and the message they were communicating, like, see, this is Brisbane, Melbourne, even the country towns, anyone that had a march for freedom, had the biggest protest that the town or the city had ever seen. Some had endless marches, biggest ones they've ever seen. Every single one of them ignored by the government, and just sort of MSM would just lie about it. Says it was 2,000 there instead of hundreds of thousands. But I think the reason we were ignored was the government was allowing us to know that there is no democracy anymore, not representative democracy. We will say what happens now. We are in charge. And you will either, look, what a beautiful picture. You will either do what we say, or we will hurt you. We will hurt you. And they don't mean just men. You know, the images are still with us of them hurting the grandmothers. You know, pushing them over in pepper spray. And she was only one. I've interviewed about 5 or 6 grandmothers who have been brutalized by young male police officers, which doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, Jeffrey's here. I'm pretty sure that when Jeffrey was growing up, he never had to have his father or his uncle sit him down and go, Jeffrey, you're not allowed to beat up the old ladies, mate. You know, that's wrong. Okay, that's wrong. You help them pick up their shopping after they've dropped it. That's right. Or you stand up and you give them your seat. You don't whack them. You don't pepper spray them. And yet, that's what's happening. And these young men, for some reason, they think it's okay. And they go home to their families or their girlfriends or even their fathers, and they've been beating up grandmothers. I can't fit that anywhere in my being.
No.
As a man, I just can't comprehend. And these are the good guys. I can't comprehend how to do this. Yeah, that's interesting. You see the Australian flags upside down. A lot of the flags, there's quite a few upside down. We learned that it was a call for help saying country in distress. I don't know if anyone, I don't know if it's even real. It just sort of spread through the camp. And that was epic. So MSN said that was 10,000 people.
Incredible.
But there was I don't know. Yeah, that's if you ever want to count to 10,000, that's what 10,000 looks like. There was actually, we're not sure. It's probably about 400, somewhere between 400 to 1 million people. So this was the people heading towards Canberra, and I talked to a politician called George Christensen, who was in Parliament House. And he said that a politician, he won't say who, came running up to him terrified and said, have you seen what's coming down the street? And I think they were terrified that we were going to pull him out of office, but we never did. We just wanted.
What a shame.
Yeah. But we just wanted, but we weren't an army. I was trying to document who these people were. They were just dead ordinary people who had a calling to come to go, no, this is wrong. We're a democracy. You can't take away our freedoms unless you have a conversation with us. You can't just tell us you're taking away our freedoms. That's like it's an optional extra. It's not an optional extra. It's a fundamental right, you know? So, yeah.
You know, when you came on last time, I made the comment that these people who turned up, they're very special people in the sense that they may have switched off all their mainstream media, TV, radio, and newspapers, weren't indoctrinated by their mantra. And so somehow or another, there was another frequency that was above mainstream media's frequency of getting that message out. You know, I mean, mainstream media's taken a leaf out of Joseph Goebbels, isn't it? You know, keep the mantra.
Yeah.
So these people came from all over Australia. We're listening to a different frequency, and they came in on a spiritual plane. That's how I can only best assume is that they were guided and governed by their higher selves in conjunction with the spiritual realms to come and say, hello, this is enough's enough. And that's why I feel quite tickled pink to actually have you on the show, because you, as I mentioned 2 years ago, I said we had a 60 Minutes Channel 9 show with some really great investigative journalists. And, it was George Negus and Ray Martin and Anne Leslie and Yana Ben. We don't have that anymore. And to me, you took up the mantle and you traveled around Australia and Florence, and you did the investigative journalist. You actually went and talked to people in their own homes and their own little villages and their towns and the beachside. You got the story from the general public, and unbelievable. It's fantastic, just what you've gone and done. And it's testament for you to be on the show tonight and get that message out that there are people out there who can do what you've done. Can we take the show?
There's a lot of good people in this country. They're just confused, because you've got to remember, not only did MSN turn against them and the government turn against them. Yeah, there's Kelly, that's my new partner, there's the bus. And the courts turn against them. But the church, I mean, there was one church in a town called Portland. There's my Starlink. In Portland, that had a big banner down the side. I'll leave that there. That pub's famous. I'll tell you why. There's a big banner down the side that says, "Jesus wants you to get the jab."
Which version of Jesus, I wonder?
Yeah. So in our day, Jesus would go with the lepers, but only if the lepers were vaccinated.
Oh my God.
It's mental. Oh. It's mental. So this pub is called the Caledonia Hotel, and he painted the flag on the roof. And the council, it's a heritage listed hotel. It's very old, had a lot of bush rangers and stuff like, it's famous. They wanted him to dismantle the entire pub. The council wanted him out of the town because he was defiant. So those ribbons where they were there for basically for like fallen people. And so whenever we go there, we turn up, we have our bus there. It's a few new stickers now. And yeah, one of the great successes is the man at the end of the bus. That's Dr. William Bay. Now, last time we were on, he would have been suspended. And he was, he came on my show somewhere, I think in Mount Tambourine. And he said, "Michael, I'm a doctor and I want you to know you're right. The vaccines are killing people." And it went ballistic. Anyway, he got suspended. He's been APRA has been after him for ages. And he finally went to court a short time ago. He was up against, by himself, he was up against a KC lawyer, one of the best in the country, and 10 lawyers.
10?
And he beat them all. He
beat them all.
Wow. Yeah, he won. There he is.
God. Fantastic.
Yeah. And he walked out and he gave his victory to God. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so this marks the sort of time where they're trying, and that's what's happening. See, there's that thing about the church sounds funny, but in actual fact, it's an attack on God. I'm actually beginning to wonder if what they actually did was, if you think back to when it happened. Usually, like say with the ferry disaster you had in England, where the guy left the back of the ship open and the ship sank. This was years ago. But the leaders refer to God. Let's keep the families in our prayers and stuff like this. When COVID came, our leaders in Australia never mentioned God. And the churches were all closed. But the vaccination centres were all open. And the new mass happened every morning at 11 o'clock, where they'd come out in their suits and they'd tell you about all the people who had died, safe and effective, safe and effective. I think they were converted. And I think what happened to some people is down here where they keep God. Well, basically the state clearly communicated with MSN, God's not up to this, mate.
Yeah.
The trust the science. And that's what trust the science means. You can't trust science because science is never fixed. It's always changing. It's always testing itself. Science is a question. And so when you're saying trust the science, that's dogma. That's have faith. I actually think they converted people. And it makes me wonder if that's why people on the other side can't talk to us. Because you cannot debate religion with people. You see that with the Muslims. You can't talk a Muslim out of deciding he doesn't want to follow Allah. The same with a Buddhist, same with a Christian. You're not going to logically talk Jesus out of their soul. But I think in this time, a lot of agnostic people around, maybe a lot of wealthy people around, we were sitting ducks. And I think they targeted Australia first. But I think now, since we've talked, they're targeting the UK. From what we've seen over here, with this new Prime Minister you've got, they've just been going bonkers on the UK. Yeah, it's tragic to watch from here. Yeah.
Coming back to
They're a great country, you know.
Coming back to this guy here, Dr. Bay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember you going live when you came out of the court, and it was on a Friday from memory, and then because he'd been just doing, he was a driver for Uber, wasn't he, just to keep afloat?
Yeah, Uber Eats, yeah.
And then, Uber Eats. And then come Monday, the two leading protagonists from the medical board and PRA, those two individuals, they stepped aside and resigned. So I'm not too sure whether or not, because he had that victory, that meant he was open for civil defamation and other costs associated against those two individuals and organizations they work for.
And so he's won costs, and so he's expecting and then he's going to sue them. So there's expecting he's going to have a big payout. What we're hoping is that, I think, in the same for England, it'd be same if a lot of these deregistered doctors actually formed their own community of doctors. I think they'd be so busy, because if William got a job in Hitchinbrook Island, he was there for like 2 days, and then they sacked him because the surgery or the clinic had so many emails, obviously, you know, bullshit ones, and the guy who ran it got scared, and so let him go. And but I think, and we have so many nurses too who don't want to work in the system. Basically everything, naturopaths, you name it, we've got it. Like an army of health practitioners. We could set up our own health system.
Yeah.
And it could even be public funded. I mean, they wouldn't, you know, I'm not talking about breaking bones and stuff like that, but I'm just saying there'd be business there. People would go. Because what I want from a doctor is one thing: your version of the truth. Tell me, Michael, you're smoking too much, but I've quit. You know, Michael, you're drinking too much. Michael, you're fat. Michael, you've got cancer. Michael, you're going to die. Get your fares. But tell me, be honest with me. And that's what happened in the last 4 years. The doctors were seen to be lying time after time after time. Do you think it's facts? No, it can't be the facts. You know, but it was. And so how can we trust them? That's a sacred trust has been broken, and they broke their Hippocratic Oath. And what we found over here, to our horror, is that since the 1970s, doctors in medical school don't pledge the Hippocratic Oath in Australia.
Really?
They don't say it. It's assumed that they'll follow it. But in actual fact, if they pledged it, that would be a contract that they'd stick to, a spiritual contract. But they don't pledge it. So they're free to basically just be what they are, which is sales reps for Big Pharma. I had a medical guy the other day. There's a lot of people now talk to me, but they're too scared to speak. So I write down what they tell me. And he said, it's all about money, and it's all about maintaining illness. They don't want you to get better. They want you to remain slightly here, because then you are a golden goose. You know, you're on statins rest of your life. There's a lot of people now. There's a new, if you're overweight, they've got a new drug that can, you know, the weight drops off. You have to be on it $250 a month. You have to be on it for the rest of your life.
Oh my
It
God.
apparently affects muscles and all sorts, so you can't come off it. I don't know if you just go straight back to being the Michelin Man if you get off it, but but this is what they're doing. It's big pharma is a business. Vaccines are a perfect business model. No one checks to whether they're really doing any research. Everyone has to take it, or you can't work, or you can't go to school. And then if anything goes wrong, can't touch us, mate. We're indemnified. Perfect business model. So, and then in Australia, the health industry in Australia is becoming bigger than mining and manufacturing combined. And so many people, you go to every town now, every carers, disabled people, and a lot of disabled young people, autistic and stuff like that. But we're creating these autistic kids. And now, instead of actually rigorously going, hang on, like say the three of us here, when the three of us were in school, we were never told, don't bring peanut butter to school, you might kill someone. We were never, what are other things? We didn't have kids with autism or asthma or any of these things much. Might have had a few hyperactive kids, but that was, and the biggest kid, the fattest kid, wasn't even that fat, just a slightly plump. The rest, and he only looked big because the rest of us were whippets. And we'd go to the tuck shop, and the mothers there would give, or the grandmothers would give you a cinnamon bun. It'd have as much butter as it would bun. It'd just be a thick blob of butter, which you'd wolf down. And then at recess, especially in Australia, they made you drink milk before you could play. And the milk had been sitting out there all morning waiting for you. It was like warm. And so it's disgusting. And then you go. And we die, and we fully fit. And if you got measles, they had a measles party. If you had chickenpox, no one gave it to us. No, he's got chickenpox. Who cares? And yet now they go, oh, there's a measles outbreak. There's like 2 cases. And they're creating business. So they've created a huge international business built on the misery of our children who we have participated in their injuries by not questioning why we are putting this stuff into their veins. And we're still not really, I know Kennedy now might change things, but the rest of us keep putting it in. And now on top of that, we're building other industries, intervention officers, NDIS in Australia, which is a big rod where we look after these injured, all with our taxpayers' money. But what it gets to, and this is the horrible thing, which is going to make me less and less popular.
Really?
What it means really is that, and if you go to a playground, you'll see Australian parents of every single race doting over their children, grandmothers too. You go to the supermarket, the kids are hanging off the mothers, and you can still sense the love. But they don't question about this stuff going in, which means, and now there's no way you cannot know that there's questions about the validity of this stuff. There's just too much evidence that, there's too much autistic kids everywhere, and yet they still do it. And which means that they love their kids, but they love something more. Is it status? Is it belonging to the herd? Is it just ease of life? It's easier, just get the kids vaccinated, makes it easier, you don't get questioned. Is it compliance? I don't know what it is, but what I know is it's the deeper and deeper and deeper I go into the culture of Australia and who we are currently, the darker it's getting. It's like, I call it heart of darkness. And I'm actually beginning to believe that Australia is just like a poster of all these smiling people, all happy and everything's great. But underneath, we've got enormous suicide rates, poverty, homelessness. We allow children to late-term abortion. You can abort a child up to it's born. No health, no pain relief. That's legal all over the country, and it's happening every day. This is dark stuff, and everyone's just accepted it as normal. But the side effect is that the country is silent and apathetic. And I think spiritually, people are aware that God himself is under attack in this country, and that at some point we have to stand up and go, who actually are we? What do we actually value? And what are we prepared to do to defend those values?
I know when, in childhood, if somebody had the measles or chicken pox, we'd all play together. You didn't have anything to stop it.
Yeah.
It was like, go down and play with, all of these things. Everybody was covered in spots, and that was it, done and dusted.
Yeah. And it made us stronger.
Yeah, exactly.
It made us more stronger,
But I mean, look at the food chain now. Look at all the additives and God knows what in the labels. I mean, you need to speak another language. I mean, I've looked at labels and it says plant food, and then I'm reading all these numbers which I haven't got a clue what they are. But there's no plant food in there. It's a numbers game. People wonder why they're.
I love it when you see it says they advertise it like it's something rare and special. They go grass-fed cows. I'm thinking, well, you're feeding them hamburgers. I mean, because all I see is cows in fields eat grass. I know eat the hay, but it's, and I think it might actually come down to the fact that corporations have worked together to reimagine how the world looks. You know what I mean? They've brought great things to our lives. But I think too, they've put profit above people. And right now, we're seeing the result of that. And I think AI, that can they're looking to replace us, like in Amazon, in America, they're replacing humans, hundreds of thousands with robots. Suddenly, as a race, as a species, we've got to go, hey, hang on, are we a human planet and these robots can serve us? Or are we just get in and grab everything you can and basically dog eat dog world? But we just make it look nice, but we're actually dog eat dog. Or are we a human planet? Because when I look to the UK, you guys ended slavery. I know you had your empire, but in reality, if you look at other empires, you were one of the most benevolent. You did great things. And I think that's why the world's grieving for England, because you guys were a great country. You weren't perfect, no country is, but you were great. And you were stubborn, like holding on to your royalty, whether people didn't believe it or not, you held on to these traditions. There was a stubbornness to you, which was also admirable. But now we're just watching it being destroyed from the inside and destroyed by its own leaders. I mean, even your poor farmers and everything, I saw a thing today where they're saying they want to take the farm's worth 8 million. So they want to take, when the farmer dies, they want to take $400,000 of tax. And they said, well, the farm can make that because it makes 8 million. But what this farmer got on, he goes, the farm might be worth 8 million, but it only produces $50,000 a year in profit once you work it. And so that $400,000 has to come out of the 50,000. So it's not sustainable. So the next generation will have to sell the farms. And over here too, I've got another man approaching me, and there's underhand things going here to get rid of smaller farmers and bring in the corporate. So it's an ongoing battle, that we put it this way. But I do wish a country as great as yours, because America's leading the way at the moment, but it would be great to see a country as great as yours. I mean, with your great poets and your great writers, your great thinkers, could stand up and actually start defending humanity itself against itself. Because we now need to stand up against our own humanity and say, no. We don't need that much money. I don't need 3 toasters. I actually need my child healthy.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Yeah. And I need my child to be taught how to think, not what to think, which is
Exactly.
over here. They're just being indoctrinated. No,
Yeah.
teach him what to think. And they can't teach him what to think or her what to think, because if the child can think, then the child has the chance of being free because he's thinking their own thoughts.
Exactly.
So this is what I'm seeing. Yeah.
Mm.
Sorry, I'm a bit miserable tonight. Not miserable, but sorry.
I've been watching Jeremy Clarkson with his farming show, Clarkson's Farm.
Oh, yeah.
He's done more for farming and getting urban metro cities aware of what it takes to be a farmer. I mean, for him to spend 12 months and then his bookkeeper consultant said, well, you made £140 for the whole year.
Yeah.
He said, if I didn't have my other interests, he said, how does a farmer bloody survive, you know?
Yeah.
And then you can see how that West Oxford Council, I mean, that's where the bureaucracy takes over, and because they're unelected, they can just go and walk all over you. So now we switch across to America and we see Trumpy boy putting together a football team of fantastic specialists in all different fields for the very first time, really going through and doing a complete audit on the whole structure and removing the bureaucracy and coming back to democracy. The question I'm waiting for is when they go into Fort Knox to see if the gold is there or it's not there, because the guy from...
Do you think there's any there?
No, I don't think there's anything. I think, and the reason I'm saying that is that MI6 agent retired, and he then wrote a book, which is the forerunner for... Exactly right, James Bond. And so it's all about Goldfinger and the gold coming out of Fort Knox, and he was actually revealing to the people there was a problem here, and of course the other thing. You think
that was a documentary then, not an actual James Bond film? They just filmed a documentary. Stole what we got.
Yeah, it was done in that way, isn't it? So I think the other thing is that for years and years, I mean, the gold was set at $32 an ounce, and then Jimmy Carter came in and he lifted the actual restrictions to a free-flowing gold, and as a consequence of more value of the gold, it meant that they could print more money. So that was the role of the rise of the military-industrial complex, and of course now we've seen Elon Musk with his team of big ballers. Is that the right way? All those guys coming in and going through, and I wouldn't be surprised if he used his own quantum computer to be able to get in there and break through the encryption and all that stuff and go through with the algorithms, and to be able to go into that US aid and establish, you know, the money that's been going out to all these groups all around the world, like Bill Gates, George Soros, and even the likes of New York Times, 50 million, Politico, another newspaper from Belgium, is supposed to have got 8 million, but it turns out it's 23 million. We've seen the likes of Reuters getting their money through Pentagon. All these media ideologies were getting funded by the Americans themselves through back doors in order to, well, play this propaganda game against the public, and I believe that's where it's coming. It's brought the people down to a real mellow thing, and so we really can't fight this because we've got this mainstream media who just in our face, boom, 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 and they're feeding various politicians. And when I saw just how much money was given to those international media organizations, I think it was 700, I think we're talking off here, and there was over 6,700 journalists. I start looking at some of the Facebook sites where there's one individual in Brisbane who just keeps hammering the whole the Labor Party. You know, it's the way to go. Go for the yes vote for the thing. Go for the woke. Go for the Democrats. Everything was totally boom, boom, boom. And I'm starting to think, I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the 7,000 buddy journalists who's been getting paid by an NGO to propagate this whole mainstream. Well, what I was going to say, in the old days would be hero worship. Today, in the modern means, they call it influencers. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's being classified as an influencer and been supplied all the cash to be a stand up and buddy go for it. But the gentleman himself is suffering from a number of back shots and boosters. So the penny hasn't dropped. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
you shouldn't laugh at that.
that's his journey. But I think we're all watching on the sidelines and seeing what's actually happening, and then we can see just how some of the judiciary people are holding things up. And if we can get America across the line, and the fact that he's using tariffs as a weapon to bring manufacturing back into the States so they can stand on their own 2 feet and give them pride, and that's what it is about hope. I believe they're just going to be a mega country. They're just going to power up, just like Pearl Harbor. Boom, as the Japanese said, I think we've woken the beast. Well, I think he's woken the beast, and I think the jobs are going to be flowing through, because I saw that, was it 6 years ago when I went into America and I was in the Midwest, and I could see that lost hope. The whole, the tumbleweed was coming down the main street because Walmart had set up, the big premises at the beginning of the town, and Main Street was dead. So the whole hope had gone. So I really, and the amount of money that's been pouring in from various, well, not only Japan, was a Prime Minister went out there with $1 trillion and built up car manufacturing industry, and the Saudis are going to put 600 billion. I mean, it just keeps coming in and flowing in.
Yeah, there's great hope there. There's and I think the difference between America and China is the Chinese aren't free. So now, if Trump unleashes the people from all the bullshit of the Biden and all the other eras and just lets them freely chase their dreams, it'd be very interesting to see the two ideologies fight each other, the controlled Chinese one and the free America. And I despair that it should be happening here, but we're just watching America and hoping, while our dopey prime minister just keeps smiling as though everything's happy. Honestly, he's just does my head in. And then behind him, all we've got to vote for is someone who looks like Voldemort. And it's just, he's just sitting there in despair. I can't even remember a prime minister in Australia who allowed, the last time I remember was when Bob Hawke, we'd won the America's Cup, and he said this thing: if anybody fires their employee today, you're a bum, something like that.
That's right. Yeah.
But he crystallized Australia. He thought, that's us. Yeah, we're hard working, but we won the America's Cup, so we're going to take the day off and have a party. He sort of summed up our culture beautifully. This was a leader. He brought us all together. Everybody was Australian in that moment. That was his skill as a leader. I don't know how he was overall, but nowadays, nothing. Now, even in Australia, just to finish, to show you, we've got a premier here now, Jacinta. So she bans celebrations of Australia Day. You can't celebrate Australia Day. On the same day that we want to celebrate Australia Day, she's got protest. She allows protests of people who hate Australia. And then the next day or the day after, she's at a drag queen festival and she's hugging them, going, we're going to protect you from the bad people. What bad people? We gave up poofter bashing in the 60s. We don't give a shit anymore. We don't care about that stuff. But they're trying to make us look like villains. And I hate to say it, so this is difficult, but there's an attack on a certain color. If you're this color, and suddenly you're the bad color, you're the color that caused all the issues. You're the only one that's racist. You're the only one that's bigoted. And if you stand up for that, and some young men in Australia are, then they're attacked like crazy. How dare you? But what they're doing is, well, no one's standing up for us. Our fathers aren't. Our grandfathers aren't. We're here, and like it or not, I said, the culture in Australia, there was Chinese here, there was Afghans here, there was all different races, even from the start of Western civilization. But the lion's share of the people that built this country were white people. And that's the truth. And we built it. And it was a beautiful, lucky country, successful, tolerant. It wasn't perfect. No country is. But it was better than a lot of them. And we had shiploads of people risking their lives to just try and get a sliver of our golden shores, just a taste of them. That's all they wanted, because they saw what we had was so good. And in silence, we're letting it be taken away from us. And that's why they want our freedom of speech, because freedom of speech is the only weapon we have against tyranny. So we keep speaking. Yeah.
But that MO,
I have another interview to come, but yeah.
That MO, the business plan, is what's happening in America, isn't it? So they've tried that playbook in America, and now if people around the world are watching it and saying, "No, they don't have to put up with that."
Yeah. I've got a plane going over. Hold on.
That's right. Very good.
That's life.
Yeah, I've got an interview coming up with a lawyer, so I'll have to go. But thanks for having us on, and thank you for the compliments. I don't feel anything special. I just feel like a worn-out man in a bus, to be honest. But thank you very much for the kind words. I really appreciate it.
No, but you've got that inner drive and passion, and
I just want to quickly.
Go on.
I just wanted to briefly say why I reached out to you was when you did a 24-hour show from Australia back in October, November, and you put something together, and then the gentleman over in the UK said, "Let's do it again." And for me, that's the new paradigm. That to me was the jigsaw puzzle. All those people spread out all over the world, didn't think they had a voice. We know that 1 million people turned up, or thereabouts, in Canberra without mainstream media telling them to go. They all turned up, so they're on a frequency. They told them to get there. And then you guys have done something that brings back to a whole new level of communicating on this realm. And I salute you, because that was that's the way to go now, mate. This is the way to go. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, it's inventive. We can do things. I did a 12-hour podcast about Epic the other day, because I think Epic should be commemorated by the freedom movement every year, because it was a spiritual event. So we need to make it a part of our folklore, Yeah.
Well, we are the change makers. So, undercover agents, we're just slowly rising up. So, we got to keep our hope, our faith, and our prayers going, that we are at the front making the changes. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for taking the time out. It's been brilliant as ever.
No problem. God bless. God bless to you both.
All right.
Take care.
Bye, Michael. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, everybody. Same time, same place next week. And thank you for all joining us.